Hey Rob, if could you change it so that it lets everybody in, even guess?
That setting was the same setting as yesterday, and for whatever reason, it's doing this. Can't figure out why.
That's strange.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll get
it
through
doesn't do it for everybody.
All right, it's 9 o'clock. We'll kick this meeting off right now. My name is Quentin McKinley, and I'm your moderator for today. If you guys didn't catch, I did drop a link for the attendance. If you guys could scroll up in the chat and click on that link or use the QR code and just sign in so we have a record of you guys attending this meeting, that would be great. We're going to be joined by a variety of people today as presenters. Nate McKean and Rob Peterson will be the primary presenters. Also joined by Rochelle Skinner and Bob Abaco, who will be joining us at around 9:30. As you guys, all returners and some of the new people might know, everybody gets muted when they join the meeting. If you guys do have questions throughout, please drop them in the chat and we'll be addressing them at the end as we have time. And if you guys could keep your cameras on throughout, that would be awesome. So that's kind of our introduction for our training today. And I'll let you guys kick it off here, Nate and Rob.
Hey, thanks, Quentin. Assume everybody can hear me. Yep, my mic is on. Here we go. A lot has happened over the winter. We've been hard at work, and there's a number of changes that you all need to know. I realize for some people who are brand new to us, this is just going to be totally new information, but it's important information that everyone understands going into the season. So we're going to go over some rule changes that are going to be taking effect awkwardly, not right off in the beginning of the season, despite our best efforts. So we have an official rule change that'll be hitting in right around mid-July. We made changes to staff evaluations. We have some new COVID guidance based upon where we're at in the pandemic. Updates to our firewood policy and collecting firewood. We'll also go over a new component called the Learning Management System, which is an educational system that the state of Vermont owns that we're going to be piloting this year and utilizing. There's going to be some changes to taking deposits or sort of like a damage retainer for some rental items like cabins, cottages, and pavilions. We're going to be taking one-night reservations on certain nights, and that's already in effect. And then I'll go over a spirit training, and there's some other stuff, so it's not all as you see it here in the particular order, at least. So COVID best practices, the staff website, again, is going to be where we're going to be putting those updates. We're in sort of a new phase of the pandemic. It's year 3. We've learned an awful lot. And we're in a relatively safe place right now, though case counts are ticking up in Vermont, as they are in a lot of places in the country. So any COVID practices or policy stuff or changes to our behavior or actions we need to take, that's going to be on the staff website. It'll be on the first tab right at the top. But essentially, it's common sense at this point. Know the symptoms of COVID-19. I think we all know those. They're specifically listed out on the best practices document on the web. And don't come to work if you're sick. You know, we want people to get tested. You can get tested for free all over the state. There's a number of different clinics that you can go to and walk in as an opportunity. And then, you know, the other best practices are really, really simple, like open the windows in the contact station when it's possible. You know, utilize the air purifiers when you can. We purchased, I don't know, probably 120 air purifiers, maybe more, a couple of years ago. We have them for all the cabins. We have them for contact stations. And I think there's even more probably in some maintenance shops. So utilize those air purifiers. Don't forget to change the air filters in them, as you know, they don't last forever. You know, another common sense one is just get vaccinated or boosted. It's not required, and we're not making people a test like we had been previously, but it's highly recommended. And again, just check the staff website for more information. And if anything drastically changes, we're going to send out an email, and your regional staff will be in touch. So other COVID factors, you know, supply chain shortages are real, and it's impacting us in a significant way. We've had a hard time getting vehicles. Our uniform procurement this year has been an absolute nightmare. We basically put in a uniform order in December, and you know, up until last week, we were still negotiating with our supplier to get everything that we need in. You know, other park equipment has been impacted, from rental boat replacements to fire rings and everything in between. So it's just a really challenging time to get the things that we need, but we're doing our best. So this year we've implemented what's called the Learning Management System, or the LMS. It's owned by the state of Vermont, and instructions can be found on the staff website under mandatory training. There's instructions on how to log in, but it's essentially a platform with literally, you would have access to thousands of training videos. We've selected a curriculum that works for us on a variety of topics, including a lot of OSHA safety trainings that are required of us as an employer, and required of all employees, regardless of your position. Right now, I know that there are delays. You don't get into the LMS with an active account until you're fully and completely on the BTHR payroll system. So I know right now some of you have already probably tried to log in and you're not having luck. It's because of that gap between when you're in the payroll system and when you get uploaded to this system. And the point of this is that it's a professional system, and we can track who's gone through what trainings. And really, it's not about watching over everybody to make sure they've done the training. It's really about documenting our training and making sure that everyone has gone through it. OSHA requires us not only to train people, but to document that we've trained people. So this has that documentation baked into the system. So, you know, we have fire extinguisher training, safe lifting practices, PPE. We were able to bring in Safety Sandy, that video. Heat-related illness, that's another thing that we really want to place an emphasis on this year. It's a good training video, and we have some other heat-related aspects that we've sort of baked into this year. It's in the park management manual, but we're basically We have some uniform stuff, some bucket hats. We're going to be putting in air conditioners where we can and when we can. We're going to be providing everybody with a drink cooler so you can have access to cold water. And so there's a lot of information that's in the park management manual. We'll also in this LMS cover sexual harassment training, safe driving, and other topics. We stood up a work camper program, which may on the surface level look similar to our existing campground volunteer program, but there are some major differences. We realize that getting employees, especially in some rural pockets of the state, was really difficult. We can't hire people who don't exist, and so we're really focusing on like a national recruitment to fill all of our positions. And so we have people who've been hired under the work camper program, and they've been hired into essentially park attendant positions. They will, occupy a full hookup site in a park where we have them. And it's essentially an extension of staff housing. It's just kind of like a new and creative way to give staff housing and get the people we need. And this program has worked. We filled a whole bunch of positions with it. And I'm not sure we would have had as many positions filled had we not come up with this program last August when we started talking about it. So staff evaluations have changed in a pretty significant way. We've made them a lot more simple to complete. We had a subcommittee review our existing evaluations, and we just recognized how much time they took to complete, how challenging they were to get done on time, especially in large parks with large staff numbers. So we've eliminated the mid-season evaluation. We kind of recognize that, some people were getting evaluated twice in, really a 16-week period of time, like a formal evaluation. And we decided to dial that back to reduce the workload. We created a new checkbox system where the evaluations are based upon excellent, good, satisfactory, and unsatisfactory. So we eliminated the outstanding category. And we added what I think is one of the most important aspects of evaluating performance, which is maintaining a positive attitude. That just was absent from any of our staff evaluations. And it's one of the most important pieces, I think, in any employee who works for us. We can hire someone who it could be their first job. And if they have a positive attitude, we can train them to do anything. But we could hire someone who has the most skills out of anyone who works for us. And if they have a bad attitude, it just doesn't work well. So we wanted to really place an emphasis on evaluating people's attitudes at work. So there's fewer written comments required, which should reduce the amount of time. And the bottom line is that evaluations are only one form of feedback. Daily and weekly verbal communication and feedback is essential. And Ethan and Agnes will cover more on this in their supervisory class. Aspira training has taken on a new format this year. Thanks to Aaron Jacobs at Smuggler's Notch, we've created a bunch of short skill-specific training videos that will go over specific tasks. And last year and the year before, if you remember, we would just sort of observe Aspira staff demonstrate how to do certain things. So these videos are on YouTube. They're accessible through training links. They're on the staff website and under the Aspira tab for training. So training is going to be May 10th and 11th, and that's for everybody. There's a morning and afternoon session each day. And the main difference is that you're actually going to get to practice during the training and speak with subject matter experts from our staff if you have questions. So that'll be new next week. So we added some perks and benefits this year that are new. Everybody should be getting a swag bag. We put those together last week, and they should be going out to the parks. So you get a bag, and in that bag is a water bottle. There's 2 free punch passes that you can give to any of your friends or family to encourage them to visit any parks that they want to go to this summer. We've added a 40% off parks merchandise. So Ethan has put in a work ticket into the Aspira system so that there will be that 40% discount for all of you. And that'll, once we have the exact procedure of how to get that discount, we'll communicate that out through the regions. And again, we already offer free camping. Encourage everybody to take advantage of it. There's free day use entry. And both of those benefits extend even after your contract ends. So if you were at a Labor Day park and you want to go camping in the fall at a park that's still open, you can do that with your employee ID. You have access to the state's deferred compensation retirement plan, so you can contribute directly into a Prudential retirement plan for to invest your money on a pre-tax basis. We have that information available to you. And then there's also access to the state's employee assistance program. And there will be more information on that in our self-care session on Wednesday. So again, I mentioned there's going to be a sort of a pending deposit. It's really not a deposit, but it's sort of like a damage retainer for cabins, cottages, and pavilions. It doesn't actually charge a deposit for these, but it actually sort of retains somebody's credit card information so that if there was significant damage to one of our cabins, cottages, or pavilions, we could actually go in up to 7 days after checkout and charge them for it. And this is really based upon feedback that we've been receiving. So this is taken at the reservation point. It's not taken at check-in. That's just the way that Aspira does it. So for a lot of folks, this is, reservations have already been made for a lot of our cabins and cottages. So it may not really take effect until, in practice, really till next year. Certainly as people start making reservations 11 months in advance, it will take effect then. So it's not going to have a big impact on this year, but it's something that we've put in, and only regional staff will be able to actually make that final determination whether we're going to charge somebody, and but we have this sort of in our back pocket should we need it if there's a lot of damage. And we've put a policy into the park management manual which sort of outlines the reasons why we would actually collect money from folks in the event of damage. So slight update to our firewood policy this year. Last year and the year before, basically all wood brought to the park from in-state or out-of-state had to be heat treated, prepackaged, certified by the USDA. And if not, wood which couldn't be burned on that first night would be exchanged at the park. New this year, basically all wood brought to the park from out of state must be heat treated, prepackaged, and certified by the USDA. But we're going to remain silent on the wood from in-state. We recognize in talking with our protection foresters that, there were situations where people were bringing truckload of firewood that they bought a mile from the campground, and then they would come into the park and have a really unfortunate interaction with our staff at the beginning of their stay. And at the end of the day, we recognize that emerald ash borer is kind of all over the state at this point, and managing that wood from super local areas wasn't going to have that much of an impact for the amount of work that it was creating and the number of headaches and customer service problems it was creating. So it's really just wood from out of state that we're concerned with, and it's illegal to bring wood into Vermont from other states. So we'll exchange that on a one-for-one basis. And Dan will cover that more tomorrow on the Great Outdoors. So I'll kick it over to Nate to go over rule changes now. Nate, take it away.
Excellent. Thank you, Rob. Do you mind advancing the slide? What slides when I? Oh, okay.
Yep.
So the rulemaking process is pretty complex. I won't spend too much time on it, but it is written in statute that the department has the authority to establish rules that govern the use of state parks. And that flows down through the Commissioner of Forest Parks and Recreation, who you met yesterday. The vast majority of our rules require an annual rulemaking process that we go through. So some years we don't recommend any rule changes. Many years that we do. And when we do, it is quite a process. Next slide, please. Basically, the rules that we're going to be enacting this year, we proposed them last September, and they go through, we have to all agree on some rules that we're going to recommend. Then they have to go through the commissioner and the secretary and the governor's office. And then when they approve the recommendations, there's an internal governmental committee that reviews them, and we meet with them. They ask us questions, they make recommendations, and if they approve, we file the rules with the Secretary of State's office, and then do some advertising, take some public comment, and then we meet with a legislative committee. They review the rules, and then and we have a hearing, and then the final rules are adopted with the Secretary of State's office, and they're enacted in about 2030 if we're lucky. Just kidding. Actually, so we started last September, and now we're hoping these rules become they're enacted in early to mid-July. So we'll keep you posted on that. So as I'm going through these slides, these rules will take place in July. We'll send you out information well in advance to give you a heads up. And I do apologize that it's not ideal to be changing fees or any rules mid-season, but it's unavoidable in a lot of cases. Next slide. And I will back up a little bit and just thank Rochelle. Rochelle has been through this process many times, and she really spearheaded some of the language and then moving our rules along through the process. So for the day use fees, basically adult day use has gone up $1. Pass rates, group rates, kid rates are not changing. So day use is going up $1. Pavilion rentals, that's going up $25 per day. The municipal rate, this affects only some of you, I believe, but the municipal rate has been set in 50-person increments. Last year was $150 for 50 people, $150 for the second group of 50, up to 100. And we've simplified it this year and lowered the increments. So now the 25 is the number that changes the rate. So for the new fee, for the first 25 people, it's going to be $250 per month. And then for the next 25 people and so on, it'll be an additional $250 per month. Next slide. It used to be last year, and for many years, if you lost your vehicle pass, then you were out of luck. We couldn't replace it. Now in Aspera, within Aspera, we have the capability to sunset an old pass, kill it, so to speak, and then issue a new pass. So in July, we'll be able to issue replacement passes, vehicle passes. Next slide. Camping fees are increasing for Vermont residents. A tent site has gone up $1 per night per site. And lean-tos are going up $2 per night. For non-residents, tent sites are going up $7 per night, and lean-tos are increasing $8 per night. I just want to take a moment on that one. It's a much bigger jump for us than we're used to for out-of-state visitors. And the way we're framing this is that Vermonters are getting a discount, well, not so much gouging out-of-staters. And for those out-of-staters who do feel like they're being taken advantage of and we're gouging them or have too high of a premium for them, this is an industry standard around the country, and we fall right around in the middle here in the Northeast of the amount out-of-state folks, how much more they pay than in-state folks. So we're pretty comfortable with this recommendation, and the one thing we're most concerned about is if you folks get much grief about it. We don't think you will, because it is an industry standard, but if you do, you know you have that foundation. This is nothing new around the country. Next slide. Cabins are going up $9 across the board, in-state and out-of-state. And pets, we're adding $1 for pets. So pets are going to be $2 pet now for overnight. Next slide. So this one is a new one, and it's something that we've talked about for a lot for a number of years. And it's what we do if somebody doesn't show up for their reservation. So this policy allows us to cancel the reservation and rent the site if somebody doesn't show up by 2 p.m. the day following their first night of a reservation, unless they call in advance and let you know that that something happens or that happened or they're still coming. And this one, it's pretty much standard around other states too. Rob led a team. We met with the state of Maine and queried some other states, and this is standard. We'd like to kind of make it a soft rollout this year because it is so brand new for Vermont State Parks, and try to get the messaging out with our rules and our the language that people get when they're issued a receipt when they read our rules. And then next year we can get a little more stringent about it and fully enact it. Hopefully that makes sense.
And I'll just add in that, where the rub normally is with this one is, we have these epic sites, that are usually along the water, but highly desirable lean-to sites, tent sites, and they get booked well in advance. And then, and then people just don't call us, don't show, and people are kind of camping and drooling over these beautiful sites. And so, that's really what this is about. The other thing I'll add is that, we want to do everything as a organization that's customer service oriented to reach out when it's possible, to give people every opportunity to notify us that they don't intend to come. And I think some people just simply forget. Some people, our rates are fairly low. And some people just, it's really not a lot of pain for them to forfeit $50 for a weekend. But meanwhile, somebody else might be really sort of pining after that site. So that's what this is about, just a little bit more.
And historically, I know we've all gone to great lengths to try to find out why somebody hasn't showed up, what might have happened, and it is nerve-wracking when you cancel somebody's site knowing they may show up and their site will be re-rented. But I think Rob just explained it very well. It's a benefit to many more visitors who could use those sites, and it's just going to be a rule now, so we can fall back on that. Next slide. This was a big change too. Another topic that we've talked about a lot about over the years: minimum reservation periods. And this is the only rule that is enacted already now. We can take one-night reservations Sunday through Thursday for this season, the current season. And this applies to only tent sites and RV sites. So it's a good way to fill in those vacant nights. And I think that's it. And we have a few minutes, it looks like, before Bob shows up. So I'm hoping you have some questions.
Currently, we don't have any questions, Nate. Bob is here.
Okay.
If we want to turn that over to him. Rochelle answered all the questions so far for us.
Oh, good.
Morning, everyone.
Hey, Bob, well, let's get you spotlighted here. Brian, you have that?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can hear you. Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to keep this pretty short and sweet, and then open it up if you guys have any questions for me. I'm sure that a lot of you already know me and I've worked with you. And for those of you who haven't met me, I'm looking forward to working with you. So just to talk a little bit about USDA Wildlife Services, who I work for. We signed a cooperative service agreement with Vermont Forest Parks and Recreation initially in 2018. We renewed that in 2019 and 20. And then in 21, we actually signed a 5-year agreement. So this is the second year of the 5-year agreement. And the purpose of the agreement is to protect human health and safety and mitigate damage caused by wildlife at parks. So, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong. Was it 2 years ago we started the Google form?
Yeah, we had the Google form for a few years, and then we actually implemented this as the nuisance wildlife reporting as part of our incident report system. So that's now, I think, in year 2.
Yes.
Yep.
And I mean, I think that the Google form worked great last year for reporting wildlife issues. We asked that when you have issues with wildlife that you you can call or email, but we ask that you go ahead and fill out a form as well, just so that that database is being created and maintained so that it gives us something to look back on, when we were dealing with things like potential goose roundups or historical issues with bears where it's, on the fence of what to do. And, when we can see a historical issue there, it gives us kind of a better idea of which method would work best moving forward. So just some of the things that are on the form, where it is, when it's happening, number of animals involved, what the damage is, what type of efforts you guys have been using, what you haven't tried, what you have tried. One thing, I know it gets annoying, say like, for example, geese. you know, you're filling out a form, there's a goose there. You fill out a form, there's a goose, there's geese there, and it just seems like it's repetitive. So the more with geese, maybe not every day for 5 to 6 days a week, but you know, at least a day or two, you know, when you fill out a form, there's geese, I'll make contact, and kind of keep me in the loop. It's not a bad thing to fill out, you know, a form or two a week if you're still having goose issues, just so that it's on my radar, so that I know, okay, you know, we need to try something else. We need to figure out another method, or you know, change up how we're handling the situation so we can try and solve it. Bears, it's a huge one. If you have an incident where there's a bear in a park and you fill out a form, and then the next day you have an incident, the bear's in the park, and the next day, please fill out a form daily. The reason I say this is I've had issues in the past where I get a report of a bear issue, I make contact, and then I don't hear anything for a month or two. And so I'm, you know, as far as I'm concerned, bears haven't been back. There's not an issue with bears at the park. And then I've had situations where I'll get a report a month later and the bear has been in the park for on and off for the whole month. So as much as I know you guys are busy and it's a pain to report daily on some of these things, it's really beneficial to get the problem solved, as well as to be timely with it. The only other thing I wanted to mention, I've already put up a couple goose fences. I'm going to be putting some more up. I tried to put a couple more up and the water levels were so high and there was ice in a couple places, but when I tried. So I'm going to be putting some more fences up. I just ask that if I show up at your park, and I'll send an email when I'm going to do that now. If I do put one up, and you don't want it, just respond you don't want it. If you do want it, and then for some other reason you want to take it down, or it needs to be moved, or whatever the case may be, just let me know and I will do it, because the equipment is really expensive, and so I want to be able to store it the way that is easiest for me to deploy them. So just, yeah, let me know, and you know, I'll take care of it. Bear issues, and when you report on bears, please fill out the Google form as well as the Vermont Fish and Wildlife nuisance bear incident report, which is on their website. If anybody's not familiar with that, you can reach out to me and I can send you the link. If anyone has any questions or wants to chat about anything, feel free to give me a call or email me. My number's 802-272-1490. And email is robert.a.acabo, ACABBO @USDA.gov. And that's all I got for you. Does anybody have any questions?
We don't currently have any questions for you, Bob.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Hey, Bob, I will say that the chat was quite active. I'm not sure if you're able to follow along, but there appears to be a wide fan base out there for you and your services. And I just have one other question. Were any of the deer on your wall taken in a state park?
None of the deer on my wall, let's see. None of them were even taken in Vermont.
Okay.
Yeah, those are all Maine.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Sure, I'll be seeing a bunch of you soon.
Tiffany and Chris at Camp Plymouth, stay strong. I know the talk of geese is, seems like it's spread a little anxiety in you.
They're flying over my fence. That's what she told me yesterday. I can't hear her. I can see her, but I can't hear her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. We have any other questions? We can finish up this session. If there aren't, we can finish up a little early. Our next session is at 10 o'clock sharp. Again, Justice and Equity Coordinator Mara Iverson will be joining us, and Agnes Barcelo will be moderating that session. So it's a must-see session, and so just log in a few minutes early, and we'll see you at 10.
Yeah, we don't currently have any new questions, Rob.
All right. Okay, well then we'll put this one to bed. All right, we'll see you in a few.
See you later. Thank you all.